G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 24th of August 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cade, Power Games, Into the Elves Mound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 available now. All my books are available on Amazon. Thank you to all those who support the channel. You can buy my books, buy my merch, and of course join my Patreon. All my links are in the link tree. Most of the news, of course, is negative, but somewhat helpful. Ooh, just adjusting my screen. Let's see. The Pentagon has admitted that restrictions are in place on Ukraine. Basically, the United States has said no shooting our missiles into Russia. I think that's a repeat of a story that's been repeated often. You know, it wasn't just Trump who put restrictions on Zelensky, but Zelensky's been asking since 2022 for long-range missiles, deep strikes on Moscow. Bomb Moscow for me. Give me troops. You know how many times he's asked for troops? Trump is frustrated. Yeah, well, because everybody keeps trying to undermine the peace process to try and squeeze concessions out of Trump. One of these days they're going to wake up with 50% tariffs on everything, and Trump's going to say, and you're going to pay, and Mexico's going to pay for it. No, but seriously, the Europeans are trying to squeeze Trump for more weapons and a big discount, of course. But as Trump said, and it's your responsibility, and pretty much glared at him. And what could they do? They can't force him. If they know if they put tariffs on the US, he'll put tariffs on them, and European trade is one-sided. A few tariffs on the US won't make a difference, but Europe is dependent on that trade. It's what's called having the high ground. Now, Putin playing hardball? Well, of course, he's trying to maximize his returns, okay? Anyway, Al Jazeera finally caught up with the news and admitted that there was a evacuation in Korenskaya, collapse of the front line. However, hasn't been mentioned, but there's been waves of drones and missiles exchanged, as well as hundreds of attacks by Russia across the entire front. It's pretty much what you would call an offensive. Along 1,000 of the, two more settlements have been taken control of today, Now, what got me is that many news services are reporting the settlements from yesterday twice. So they have the story yesterday about the Russians taking two settlements. Same story today with the same names with just today's dates. Like, hey, do you guys actually do anything in those offices other than play paper basketball or something, But there were drone attacks. Russia shot them down. Ukraine shot some down. Russia's airports were closed for a little while. Otherwise, Zelensky's calling on the Global South to support diplomatic efforts. And the Global South, particularly South Africa, told him to go, pound sand. But the Wall Street Journal, of course, is whining that the US won't allow Zelensky to conduct deep strikes on Russia. But he does anyway, but he does it with drones and equipment bought from other countries. And of course, he suffers the consequence, and sooner or later, he's going to pay with his life. But of course, everybody's rattling the cage saying, no, Putin's the one who's going to die. Putin's the one under pressure. Yeah, sure. Cope and seethe. Cope and seethe. The Ukrainian, those morons who fly the Ukrainian flag on their profile, they're the same people who go to pride parades. They're the same people who always lecture you on what harm you're doing to society turn a blind eye to the authoritarian state that is Ukraine, because the left have nothing but lies, deception, and hypocrisy. I merely bring you the truth. And the truth is there's artillery across the front in Sumy. No reported strikes on Sumy itself or Kharkiv, which is unusual. But you notice there's almost none of the drone strikes. There was 400-something strikes. But it's possible that this time Kiev Independent was actually talking about these markers as well, which would make sense. Now, at Kupiansk, there's nothing really happening. North of Lyman, the Russians have taken more territory in a push towards what appears to be, a push towards Yawa. They're still stuck at Zakhin, but they have pushed closer to Yamp, Seversk as well, but not much. Now we go down a bit, wait for the map to load. Russian caveat. There's activity on the front line, but nothing of consequence. Bit of fighting north of Chevez Yar. Does appear to be some activity at Chevez Yar, but nothing of consequence. Clashes on the road to Kolomenskia. No real outcome there. Clashes here, south of Kolomenskia. Nothing has come really of that. Nothing west of Kolomenskia itself, which is unusual. There should be artillery exchanges there. Maybe Ukraine's waiting for the Russian build-up, or that is, Russia doesn't appear to be taking advantage of the collapse of the Ukrainian lines, probably because they still have second and third layer. They probably still have enough forces up here to basically, make them cautious. All right, so we have some fighting along here, but not much. This breakthrough has not really gone far, but it's increased. The breakthrough here doesn't seem to have gone far. About half, I would say, half of Ronitsk is still Ukrainian, same with Kransky's. Noryvetsky, artillery on Noryad. Apparently there were explosions. Explosions reported in Noryad from shelling. That, how they say, violent bombardment. Well, it really wasn't that big. Alright, so we have activity without, again, the Russians have come up a second road into Bavorsk. This road. There's two roads out of Severnikio, and the Russians now control just the little bit. Again, activity here. Nothing really coming out of it. Same here. Nothing's really come of it. though there is, as you see, an offensive on that, but only a little bit of territory here and a couple of villages have been taken. So whatever collapse of the Ukrainian line isn't actually coming from the Russian news, by the way. I suspect that it is bait to see how the Russians would react, and they're not taking the bait. But it's mostly shit posters, no serious outlet is reporting collapse of the Ukrainians. And this also could be Zelensky's opposition overinflating the situation in Ukraine in order to undermine Zelensky's position, which really doesn't need undermining, okay? You should never lie about your enemies. It only empowers them. And of course, that could also be the possibility, to make Europe panic. But Europe hasn't taken the bait. But the Wall Street Journal, of course, has clutched their pearls many times about the US. Biden did this as well, so, every 6 months there's a review, and every 6 months they turn Zelensky down, and every time he's turned down, he appeals, and thus it goes round and round. But security guarantees won't be ready until next week, according to the Deputy Foreign Minister. Early White House Secretary Carolyn had stated that they would discuss the security guarantees with Moscow and see if their proposal is acceptable. Now, there are rumours, but no actual details of the contents, although according to NBC, that political leadership basically be coordinated between the allies. They're not actually subject to negotiations with Russia, although if you're consulting with Russia, I think they've already made it clear. But they don't mind if you guarantee the security. What they're worried about is placement of troops on their border. Because you may not consider this, but if you get, and we've seen this historically, a build-up of troops on borders, We had this with World War I, World War II. It is not your leadership today, although in America it was Roosevelt. I'm all for Roosevelt kept saying how much he was for peace, and then yet behind the scenes he was arming nations for war and undermining their his Japanese allies in a war that Wilson started, funded by Jacob Schiff. But nobody's ruled out direct talks with Zelensky. They're just saying there must be something on the table other than basically Zelensky wanting to yell at Putin. Because we know what a little peon Zelensky is and how self-important he thinks he is. Now, of course, Ukraine wants a frontline freeze. Well, in order to have a frontline freeze, you gotta stop these drone attacks, bro. Okay? Gotta stop all this drone attacks, which there aren't. None of them are marked on the map today. Although there's an alert, but no actual marked on the drone. There's some Russian ones. But of course, it's not just the drones, it's the car bombs in Crimea, setting fires in Russia, There's been a leak by a hacking group. Now, these are linked. They are pro-Russian. They have been linked to attacks, shall we say, digital attacks on NATO. But apparently, they hacked the General Staff's database containing information on the killed and missing. There's 1.7 million Ukrainian war casualties between around August, let's say the last week of August of 23 and November and late November. Many were 18 to 24. According to Ukrainian law, the minimum age is meant to be 25. We know that there are thousands of missing Ukrainians 18 to 24. They shared a number of details to prove. Yeah. And the question asked would be, what are the ethnic details? Well, I'll tell you, they're not Hungarian. They're Russian. They're Russian. They're Slovak, Cambodian, you name it. Okay, there's Africans, but there are Ukrainians. Okay, but Ukraine has lost pretty much over 100,000 mercenaries. So, probably some Hungarians, but I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of ethnic groups in that 1.7 other than Ukrainians. But it doesn't matter really. The point, what is their ethnicity? The point is, Ukraine's killed its youth on Zelensky's ego, on a war that's going to have the same outcome as the 2022 peace deal. I might be wrong. Russia may get more land if Zelensky keeps holding out. But Russia's made it clear they're not stopping. They're not freezing the front until they see the security guarantees and see Zelensky, see a meeting, sit down. But Zelensky's dragging this out. So is Europe. As Russia says, there's a deal on the table. You want it? Sign it? No? Okay, fighting continues. That's round and round it goes. I can't make it any clearer than that. Russian forces have taken a third location in the last 24 hours. Now, apparently, in this action, the Ukrainian troops lost up to 420. Remember, lost is not just dead; it's also captured and wounded. The fact that only a small amount of military equipment was lost, still, it's in the millions. The damage is in the millions. I mean, think the tank like this, 4 million. So Russian air defenses, all that. I mean, that's predominantly what is dictating the movement on the front, by the way, is how fast and how often Russia can keep shoring up its air defenses. Because without air defenses, they'd be rained down with hundreds of missiles every day, as well as Ukrainian drones, fixed-wing drones. That's what's slowing them down. Now, it's because those drones are so cheap, and Ukraine has probably lots of money in lots of banks around the world right now. And, of course, China and India, well, China through India, I should say, is supplying Ukraine, both sides, with drone parts. And there are many, many idiots around the world who are quite willing to see this war continue because they're jollies, they're getting joy from misery. They're watching other people suffer and they get joy. They want to feel superior. Oh, I'm so lucky. Or I'm defending democracy. All this hero complex. Or actually, a lot of people say it's actually called main character syndrome. So I should try to remember that the proper term is main character syndrome, where they're the hero of the story, and that in their mind they're defeating the Nazis, even though the Nazis fought in Ukraine, for Ukraine, against Russia. But as we see, there's very little movement on the map. Okay, so we've got still, despite the offensive activity, and I am wondering where the pivot point is. Is it going to be through here? Through here. And the main thrust will then come through here. Trying to... Remember, they're trying to force the Ukrainians out through here. You can see that. Pushing through. They're trying to keep Plovdiv open, basically trying to stop men and equipment coming in, but they're not attacking them on their way out. The same here. They're pushing more than they are advancing. Trying to push this line up into here. But pressure on this line. If they're so close to this line without suffering heavy casualties, it means they're already wearing down Ukraine's ability to manufacture and supply drones to this area, which they should not have much of a problem. Russia cannot conduct deep strikes every day. Russia's campaign isn't sustained. If Russia was able to sustain a missile attack on the same level of the United States, it would be over in 90 days. But Russia can't, okay? Which is why a lot of people just say, America pull the pin. Well, yeah, you pull the pin, but because it's an existential threat to the existence of Russia, Russia would have no point but to pull their pin and triple down, and there'd be widespread attacks on shipping. Things will escalate out of control very quickly. World leaders won't even have a say in much of what's going on the battlefield after the first couple of weeks. It'd just be pure mayhem until basically mushroom clouds are on the horizon. All because some fucking retard won't acknowledge that he's lost. And of course, the left are going to say that's Putin, and the right's going to say that's Zelensky. Actually, no. Both the left and right are going to blame Putin. This is a problem. It's Zelensky, but so many people don't want to see it. So many people don't want to admit it. Okay, Zelensky has a deal on the table, which could a signature to hold a vote, to present security guarantees, and then the ball would be on America to say to Putin, okay, let's have a freeze on the battlefield and a vote on the deal. Then, of course, we'll actually see that perhaps Putin is dragging his heels. But he's risking so much, not just for the next year or for the next decade, but probably for the next century. And there'll be nothing preventing Europe increasing Europe, if they increase the flow of artillery and missiles to Ukraine, would pretty much effectively grind the Russian military to a halt. And I think that's pretty much why I think right now Secretary General of NATO seems to be so giddy, is that I think that they are looking at intelligence to say, if the war was to continue for another 6 months, let's make it between 6 weeks to 6 months, that Russia will not be able to, and Russia knows this, I think, they won't be able to expand much beyond here, right? They won't. It looks like they're accepting that they can't push, right? They can't breach this, right? They can't breach this. That this is their last big land grab, and if Ukraine could grind them to a halt, then that's it. It's over. And of course, then the post-war analysis will kick in and everybody will say Putin lost. Again, the mental gymnastics and the mental midgets. Truth never sinks in. Whether you're Democrat or Republican or whatever, the pro-Ukrainian crowd just cannot accept the truth, will never accept the truth, and they'll always push their conspiracy theories that Russia's trying to conquer Ukraine, just so they can have a little victory in their mind, saying, we stopped them, bro. Because they're pathetic. Never marry your identity to an external factor. Now, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. You can find my links in the link tree, which is in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.